Hey everyone. Today let's dive into the chill vibes of Buddhism philosophy. So what's it all about? At its core, Buddhism teaches us how to deal with life's ups and downs. Think of it as a guide to finding peace and happiness. One key concept is the Four Noble Truths. They explain that suffering is a part of life, but guess what? There's a way out. The Eightfold Path is like your roadmap to living mindfully, which includes everything from ethical behavior to meditation, and let's not forget the idea of impermanence. Everything is constantly changing, so holding on too tightly just leads to stress. Remember, it's all about embracing the journey. Birth is suffering, aging is suffering, sickness is suffering, death is suffering. Sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair are suffering. Being connected to what is unpleasant is suffering. Being separated from what is pleasant is suffering. Not getting what one wants is suffering. In short, the 5 aggregates of attachment are suffering. If you've ever felt like your life is an endless wave of suffering, you're not alone. Everything we hear seems to point to things going from bad to worse. Wars, economic crises, natural disasters. It feels like the world is always on the brink of collapse. How do we thrive in the midst of this chaos? How do we find peace when it feels like we're in the middle of a storm? These are the questions that Buddhism seeks to answer. At its core, ending suffering is what Buddhism aims to achieve. It offers a path free from the tempests of doubt, a path free from suffering, nirvana. The origins of Buddhism date back to the 5th century BCE in the ancient kingdom of Lumbini, now modern-day Nepal. At that time, the region was a melting pot of religious and philosophical ideas, much like today. Many traditions explored the meaning of existence, life, and the nature of human suffering. Within this tapestry of diversity, Hinduism stood out. As the dominant religion, its influence felt through the caste system, rituals, and deities. From this complex social and religious landscape, Buddhism emerged as a reform movement, one that questioned and ultimately sought to transcend the prevailing beliefs. The Buddha is the central figure in Buddhism, yet he wasn't a chosen one, bestowed with this role. The figure we now recognize as the Buddha was once known as Siddhartha Gautama, a prince born into a royal family in the region of Lumbini. Rich, sheltered, and living in luxury, young Siddhartha had it all. To ensure his happiness, his father shielded him from the harsh realities of the world. Much of his youth was spent in blissful ignorance of suffering. However, his fate changed at the age of 29 when he ventured outside the palace walls for the first time. There he encountered the 4 sights: an old man, a sick man, a dead man, and a monk. These encounters led Siddhartha to question the nature of human existence and the inevitability of suffering. Confronted with the truth of life, Siddhartha realized he could no longer continue on the path he was born into. He renounced his royal life and set out on a spiritual quest to find a solution to suffering. To achieve this goal, Siddhartha studied under various teachers and practiced extreme forms of asceticism. However, after years of self-denial, he found himself no closer to understanding than when he began. Realizing that both indulgence and severe asceticism were not the answer, Siddhartha sought a middle path, one that avoided the extremes of self-indulgence and self-denial. With this new approach, he meditated under a Bodhi tree in Bodh Gaya, India, vowing not to rise until he had attained enlightenment. After 49 days of deep, concentrated meditation, Siddhartha experienced a profound breakthrough. He gained insight into the nature of human existence, the causes of suffering, and the path to liberation. In that moment, he became the awakened one, the Buddha. Following his enlightenment, the Buddha spent the next 45 years teaching the Dharma, or the nature of reality. Much of Buddhism's history is well preserved, and we know that his first sermon took place at Deer Park in Sarnath. There he laid out the foundational principles of Buddhism, the 4 Noble Truths and the Noble Eightfold Path. These teachings were unlike anything many had encountered before. Instead of requiring a leap of faith, Buddhism offered a methodical, almost scientific approach to understanding suffering and achieving spiritual liberation. Over the years, Buddhist teachings attracted a diverse following. People from all walks of life, kings, merchants, and commoners, began to follow the Eightfold Path toward enlightenment. As Buddhism spread across the region and beyond, its teachings were passed down through oral tradition and later written down in various scriptures. Over time, Buddhism evolved into different schools and traditions, each interpreting the teachings in its own unique way. Despite these differences, all forms of Buddhism share the same core goal: enlightenment and the end of suffering. Before diving into the Four Noble Truths, let's take a moment to thank the sponsor of today's episode, BetterHelp. One of the things that helps me manage the suffering of life is therapy. For the past few years, I've been in therapy, and it has completely changed my life. However, I know that for many people, therapy can be inaccessible and expensive. If that's the case for you, I recommend BetterHelp. BetterHelp's goal is to make therapy affordable and accessible to everyone. All you need to do is answer a few questions, and within a few days you'll be matched with a professional therapist. If you don't feel a connection with your therapist, you can easily switch to a new one at no extra cost. To get started, click the link in the description below or visit betterhelp.com/aperture to get 10% off your first month. Now back to our story. Much like Christianity centers on Jesus as the foundation of its teachings, Buddhism's Four Noble Truths are the cornerstone of its philosophy. The first noble truth is dukkha, often translated as suffering, dissatisfaction, or discontentment. Dukkha refers to the inherent inadequacy of life. Physical pain, emotional distress, and impermanence are all forms of dukkha. Even in moments of happiness, the knowledge that it won't last forever is a form of dukkha. For example, moving out of your parents' house might be an exciting moment, but it also marks the end of your childhood and everything you've known thus far. It doesn't have to be painful, but it's that gut feeling that life is full of ceaseless distress. Birth, aging, sickness, and death are all aspects of life we cannot avoid, and they come with their own dose of suffering. What causes dukkha? The second noble truth explains that all forms of suffering have a cause, and that cause is craving or desire. We constantly want things in our lives: a better job, more money, a new car, a new phone, approval from others. This endless craving fuels our cycle of suffering because nothing is ever enough. Even when we get what we want, impermanence persists. For example, if you're suffering from extreme physical pain due to sickness, the anguish is real. Yet, for a Buddhist, the mental anguish that accompanies physical pain isn't something one has to endure. Through meditation and an understanding of impermanence, one can find peace even in the midst of suffering. We are bound to experience sickness and injury, but how we react determines the level of unpleasantness. Suffering is difficult to deal with, which is why the third noble truth exists: the cessation of suffering. The Buddha taught that suffering could come to an end. There is a state beyond suffering known as nirvana, not the band, though nirvana does feel amazing to engage with. When a Buddhist lets go of attachments and desires, they can break the cycle of craving. This means they won't be reborn into another life of suffering. Nirvana is understood as being free from the continual cycle of birth, death, and rebirth, samsara. When all craving is gone, the soul is finally free from suffering, achieving a state of enlightenment where one is awake to the true nature of reality. Nirvana is profoundly peaceful and liberating. Imagine taking a deep breath after feeling like you've been drowning in life's suffering. The fourth noble truth lays out the path to the end of suffering: the Noble Eightfold Path. This path consists of 8 practices that help individuals live a meaningful life free from suffering. It's essentially the Buddhist roadmap to personal growth and happiness. The Noble Eightfold Path includes right view, understanding the nature of reality and the Four Noble Truths; right intention, cultivating thoughts of goodwill, renunciation, and harmlessness; right speech, speaking truthfully, kindly, and avoiding harmful speech; right action, engaging in ethical behavior, such as not killing, stealing, or engaging in sexual misconduct; right livelihood, choosing a profession that does not harm others; right effort, making a diligent effort to cultivate wholesome states and abandon unwholesome ones; Right. Mindfulness, being aware of your thoughts, emotions and actions in the present moment. Right concentration, developing deep meditative absorption to achieve a focused and tranquil state of mind. The Noble Eightfold Path is not a linear journey, but a circular one, where each principle reinforces the others. It's a lifelong process of growth and self-improvement. Buddhism teaches that everything we experience is part of an impersonal process called dependent origination. This means that nothing is truly random. Everything happens due to causes and conditions. For example, if you see a plane for the first time, you might wonder how flying works. This curiosity leads to questions, research, desires, and actions related to that original sighting. In Buddhism, the right view involves recognizing that reality is a web of concepts we've created. To see things as they truly are, we must accept the Four Noble Truths and let go of the idea of a fixed, permanent self. The ego, or the idea of me, is actually a collection of ever-changing feelings, thoughts, and experiences. Once we acknowledge this, we can support our journey through the Eightfold Path. The right intention involves cultivating thoughts of goodwill, renunciation, and harmlessness. This might sound simple, but it's crucial to align your mindset with your spiritual goals. Right speech is about speaking truthfully and kindly, avoiding lies, gossip, and harmful talk. This extends to your inner monologue as well. Be kind and honest with yourself. Right action involves engaging in ethical behavior, such as not stealing, killing, or engaging in sexual misconduct. It also applies to your mental approach to meditation, where you allow thoughts to fade away gently, without force. Right livelihood encourages choosing a profession that does not harm others. Traditional Buddhist teachings advise against occupations involving deceit, poisons, or weapons. In modern terms, this might mean working in healthcare, teaching, farming, social work, or non-profits, fields that contribute positively to society. Right effort is about making a conscious effort to improve your behaviors and thoughts, while right mindfulness involves being fully aware of your thoughts, emotions, and actions in the present moment. Finally, right concentration is about achieving a deep meditative state where the mind becomes unified and calm. Buddhism is inherently tied to the belief in samsara, the ongoing cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. This cycle is driven by karma, the law of moral causation. In simpler terms, your intentional actions, whether good or bad, have consequences that shape your future experiences. Karma isn't fate or destiny. It's purely cause and effect. Your actions, words, and thoughts contribute to your karma, and this karma influences your future rebirths. In Buddhism, rebirth isn't reincarnation in the traditional sense. Instead, it's the transfer of a stream of consciousness influenced by karma. Our current lives are shaped by past karma, and our actions in this life will influence our future rebirths. The ultimate goal is to break free from this cycle and achieve nirvana. Meditation is one of the most practical and transformative aspects of Buddhism. The Eightfold Path provides a way to get started, but it's helpful to have some tips, especially in our modern age. Anapanasati, or breath meditation, is a great place to start. This practice focuses on mindfulness of breathing, which has been shown to activate the brain's emotional regulation center, reducing negative emotions and stimulating positive changes in mood. To practice, sit quietly and focus on your breath. When your mind wanders, gently guide your attention back to your breath. Regular meditation sessions will improve your concentration and clarity, offering a precious opportunity to be present with yourself. Zen Buddhism, popular in the United States, is another valuable form of meditation. It centers on sitting and being present, allowing you to appreciate life more fully. To practice Zen meditation, sit in a comfortable, upright position with your back straight, hands resting on your lap and eyes slightly open. Focus on your breathing, observing the rhythm and flow of each breath. The aim is to be fully present in the moment. Incorporating Zen meditation into your daily routine can cultivate a deep sense of awareness and tranquility. Buddhism also offers 5 precepts as a simple guide to living a morally good life. Abstain from taking life. Avoid killing or harming living beings. Abstain from taking what isn't given. Avoid stealing and respect others' possessions. Abstain from sexual misconduct. Avoid harmful sexual behaviors and practice mindfulness in relationships. Abstain from false speech. Avoid lies, gossip, and harmful talk. Abstain from intoxicants. Avoid substances that cloud the mind and impair judgment. Following the Buddhist path isn't easy, but it's realistic. As you approach nirvana, you'll need to think on a macro scale, confronting existence itself. Nirvana is the state of ultimate liberation and peace, free from the cycle of birth and rebirth. For a highly spiritual person, it's the best deal you can get, the end of a long, difficult journey. For the average person, Buddhism offers practical tools to manage life's challenges. Meditation and mindfulness can help you develop a calmer, clearer mind, while ethical living fosters better relationships and a more harmonious life. Buddhism is unique in that it doesn't impose strict dogmas or commandments. Instead, it offers guidelines and practices that encourage a lifestyle tailored to your circumstances. You're not forced to feel like a failure if you stray from the path. Instead, you're encouraged to learn, test, and apply the teachings in a way that makes sense for your life. Buddhism is flexible, serving as both a practical philosophy and a way of life. Over the centuries, Buddhism has evolved into different schools and traditions, each with its own interpretations and practices. The three main branches are Theravada, Mahayana, and Vajrayana. Theravada, the oldest school, emphasizes individual enlightenment and is practiced in countries like Thailand, Sri Lanka, and Cambodia. Mahayana, the great vehicle, focuses on universal enlightenment for all beings and is popular in countries like Japan, China, and Korea. Vajrayana, which incorporates esoteric rituals and deity yoga, is practiced in Tibet and Mongolia. In conclusion, Buddhism offers a unique perspective on suffering and the path to liberation. Whether you're seeking spiritual enlightenment or simply looking for ways to manage life's challenges, Buddhist teachings provide practical tools for living a more compassionate, mindful, and fulfilling life. Suffering may be an inherent part of life, but with the right mindset and practices, it's possible to find peace and happiness amidst the chaos. Catch you next time.